So I'm going to put together my finalize request function. And this is what a manager will call in order to finalize the request or get the request sent out to a vendor. The manager should only be able to call this function when there are enough votes. All right, so here I go. So right underneath this function finalize request. It's going to be public and restricted. And so I added the restricted modifier here because I only want the manager to call this function. Whenever someone calls finalize request, they need to specify which request to finalize. So as an argument, this has to be called with some number that specifies the index of the request to be finalized, like so. So this will be a uint of index, okay? And now I need to add in a couple of checks. And the first thing I want to check is to ensure that this request is not already marked as complete. So at the top where I have my struct definition, there's this complete flag here, right? And that starts off as false. When the request is finalized, we flip this complete to true, and that will ensure that people are not able to finalize the same request multiple times. So back inside my function, I'm going to add on a require statement to require that request that index is complete, like so. So require, and that will be requests index and complete. Okay. Now I don't want the require statement to be true, so I have to add on the not true to flip the Boolean from true to false. So if the Boolean is true, we want to flip it to false. So the require statement fails. Okay, and so that'd be like so. And then we have to update the flag to be true after paying the money to the recipients. So that'll look like so. So requests, index complete, complete is equal to true. So, all right. So I'm reaching into request mapping several times. So I have to, I'm reaching to the request mapping several times. I have to create another local variable because you see it. I've used it twice already. This is annoying. All right. So we'll do request, storage, request, and that's going to be request index. All right, and so now I can take this, copy that, and apply it here, and apply it here. All right, so I added the storage keyword because I want to specifically say that this is a variable that should be looking at the same copy of the request that already exists inside of storage. So the capital R here indicates that I'm about to create a variable that's referencing the request struct. Then inside of here, I can update request of index to be simply requests. And that's what I did. All right, so this looks good. Now I have to figure out whether a request has gotten enough approvals, and that's something that I didn't talk about much at all. So every request object has an approval count value, but I haven't specified how many approvals they need before it's finalized. So I think a reasonable approach is that 50% have to vote, or 50% or more have to vote, or over 50% have to vote yes before it's finalized. So I have to compare the number of approvals the request has against the total number of people who have contributed to the campaign. So the second part of this is challenging because my contract has an approvers mapping, right? Where is that? Is that approvers mapping? Right here. And I can't do iterations or summation over this mapping. So if I want to get some count of the total number of people, I have to create a second state variable to keep track of the number of people who have entered into this contract as contributors. And so to do that, I would have to do something like, I have to do uint public and then approvers count, like so. Okay, and so anytime someone donates to the campaign, I will increment the approvers count. So I'll find the contribute function right here, and after I add the person's address to my mapping, I'll increment the approvers count variable like so. So this would be approvers count. So plus plus, there we go. So now I will always have access to this variable that tells me how many people have joined this contract. All right, so I need to add on one more require statement inside my finalize request function to calculate if 50% or more have voted on approving a request. And I'll do that like so. So right above this require, I'm going to do require, and this will be request dot approval count greater, should be greater than approvers count divided by 2. Okay. So now if I have 50 contributors, at least 26 of those must have a request before it can be released. The last thing I have to do after all this logic is take the money and attempt to send it to the recipient. And to do that, let's see, I would have to say, so here I would need to do request dot recipient. And because it's an address, we have a method called transfer that we could use. And so transfer, right? And I can pass in the amount of money that I want to send, which will be request, the request.value. Because the request struct has always had the value of the amount of money the campaign manager needs to send. All right, so that's it. Last thing will be one more test, and then I'll do that in a subsequent video, and then think about deploying an actual application in front of this contract. So stay tuned.